I think when you're an artist, you always have you always need to think that what you're doing is important. Otherwise, why do it? Because you do not know whether you will ever get the money for it, whether you will ever, lots of people want to be famous, but let's talk about the people that don't go out there because they want to be like on Britain's Got Talent or something like that. You think that something that you do, either in music or in whatever you do, is valuable to other people as well. And for me, I look back at my whole life until now, and I see that there are things that have happened that are important to tell. And it's really my life that I'm looking at and the people that I met. And these are the points that actually keep me going. It's also other artists. When I see, oh my God, they really, I don't know, music is usually what affects me most. When I see bands that actually create stuff that I think is so good and so valuable, and I want to tell everyone about it. And this is good. This is great because I see other people doing that as well. And they remind me of what you are doing is valuable and it's good, and it's a good thing to actually fill your time with. Whether I could be sitting at home watching just TV shows. There are TV shows I like as well, not on television, but and you have to pay for it usually. But it's not, so to say, the content of my life.
Sure.
It's not what I want to do. And there is, I always think, I want to leave something of myself here. And I want to improve something in society. It's like a big goal. It's what in Germany, when you say that to someone, they are like, are you sure you want to say that in public?
What's that? What is that reaction? That because I've heard this also something similar about Scandinavian societies, that there is like some level of accomplishment or like some level of aspiration at times can be like
too much.
Tall poppy syndrome.
What is it?
That's what they call it.
What?
Tall poppy syndrome. So like
tall poppy syndrome.
It's I think actually there's some countries which basically even their law like sort of translates this, which is if you do too well, like say if you have a company. I mean, I'm thinking about Elon Musk, for example. He went to the States because...
Was he Dutch?
He's from Australia.
He's Australian.
Because I think if you get to a certain point, like the state makes it more and more hard for you to do things, right? So like...
so there's like a legislative element of it, of like taxation and I guess there's also like what is like the underlying kind of like philosophy.
There's a philosophy to it, I think.
I understand that from for businesses, not for artists.
But it's the same thing.
It's not the same thing, because businesses are there to make money, and to
depends.
I guess some businesses.
Yeah, okay, it depends on what kind of business it is. But usually the businesses that are doing too well has something to do with selling something, with a product. And I think...
But it could be something that is just really helping people out. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, the iPhone, like, did end up connecting us in ways that we could have not expected it to.
But it also disconnected us in ways that we couldn't expect.
Yes, but it's not the tools problem. It's not the tools. It's the way that people are using it.
I suppose that's like a pretty nuanced discussion, right? Because human nature is going to respond a particular way through when provided some impetus, and that particular impetus is quite like it's quite a strong drug-like impetus, and you can just walk around and see how strongly people are connected to this thing, which is not a connection to people, and I think your point too about how we take in now information is a great example of that, But you're talking about. You're talking about adding value. You're talking about adding value, right? Like this thing on some level adds value because people are willing to pay for it, but that's like, I think that becomes a bit of like a tricky conversation, because there's a whole range of types of companies adding value in a lot of different ways. Some of which are much more interested in meaningful experiences and supporting, like I think what you're trying to create, and some are much more interested in security. which
Yeah.
is money,
But-
and
But try and go back to the whole to where we started from. I think we just deviated a little bit. I think it's like the idea that one person actually has the power to change things,
Yeah.
right? And that's like, at least this is what I'm getting from it, and this is why you think.
Well, yeah, it's for me. It's more like recruiting other people to change something. One person alone cannot change anything. It's other people that connect
you
with
can.
each other.
I think you can.
I think it's no. You're the point where things start, but
There you go.
but that doesn't mean that you're the only person that ever thought about this.
No.
Never think about that. It's like
Yeah.
we are too similar as people
Like
to
nodes.
have like completely original from I don't know out of
for
space
Yeah.
ideas. My point is that when you in Germany, when you have an idea that is actually society based, you want to change something in humans and not like in how business is done or like it's like all of these things. They find it ridiculous and they do not do everything to support you in that
yeah,
because they think that's maybe something that I don't know, faith does, right? The church does,
yeah,
or it could lead into radical movements, for example, like in a negative way. A good example of what's going on at the moment is all of these students that are protesting every Friday in Germany because of the climate change. Because it started in Sweden with Greta, what's her name? I don't know.
This young girl.
This young girl.
Who did she speak to? The UN.
Climate conference, something like that.
Some
I think
UN body on
and
the environment.
she so to say started that people actually look at what young people are doing. I think it's a great thing. It's absolutely awesome because they are, even if they are not completely understanding everything about that, because we don't even understand everything from the scientific perspective, from the business perspective, everything that's connected to it. They still fight for the future because it's them who will have the problems and their children.
We're going to have the problems. I mean, this feels like it's coming.
Yeah,
it's
it feels like it's coming already in our time. But your grandparents or my parents, for example, the generations that actually made it happen, right? That we have this climate change. They actually are the people that don't do anything.
Yeah, I guess that's also, for me, that feels like a bit of a dangerous narrative as well, because and I think it goes back to what you're saying earlier about businesses being disconnected from the artist.
Yeah.
Like there is this kind of story of separation, or like of I'm not part of that. And I think, like, if a business doesn't see any value in art and empathy and these elements of society, that they are completely intertwined and cannot be disconnected. I mean, it's the nature of how we exist as humans and beings. And I think the same thing goes with this kind of narrative around climate change. And it is really important that collective groups stand up and say, hey, this isn't okay. And actually, I'm almost not as concerned as to whose fault it is. And this is what I do with my teams. This is what I do with my teams. I don't. We try really hard not to blame, because blame is the antithesis of trust and of psychological security and of ability to innovate and to change. And the question is always, okay, these are the issues that we understand. And some of them, you're right, some of them we don't understand. Some of it's quite complex. But this is what I can do, this is what we can do as a team to make the change and move forward. So
I understand that point, but the thing is, we have to accept responsibility. And
Absolutely.
I have the feeling that nobody is there because we are talking like that nobody is taking responsibility. But it's also that why I said that about Germany is because it's not the older generations that walk. It's the younger generations that walk.
Yeah.
Because don't take me wrong, but the older generations, they will die soon. But the younger generations, for them, it's it's
Yeah.
their life that's
But
actually
I think
Although
impact.
I gotta just put a point there. I think also we didn't realize what we were doing. Like we just realized very recently that this is happening. We didn't know. Like
Yeah.
so you can't really like put that much blame on this generation because at the end of the day, like I think for the fact that we've realized that we are actually like an organism that does change the planet, we are actually taking action really fast and people are aware of it and I'm glad that it is. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this conversation, you know.
I think you should. For me, is you shouldn't focus on the blaming part. What I just wanted to explain
Yeah.
is that it's the young people. Now that we know, theoretically, everyone could do something,
Yeah.
right? But the ones that actually do something
I don't know.
are the younger people. Yeah, well, that's how we do something, whether we can do something is a different thing. But what I mean is that if you ask people in Germany, what do you think about the young like students striking every Friday, going on demonstrations for climate change? I can tell you that in Germany there are people who think this is a good thing,
Yeah.
but the majority of them is like they're students, they should be in school and not doing things like that. Demonstrating is like as if they cannot change it anyway. That's the way of thinking in Germany. They cannot change it anyway. We can only maybe get a change via like political decisions. I could say, you know, the political decisions will never be there if people are not forcing the governments to do it. And what I mean is that whenever you try to change something in society that has nothing to do with that we get better work, that we get better money, that we are wealthier as a society, it in Germany is always like futile. Don't do it. You will never change anything. It's the negativity that's actually in there.
Right.
And if you go out there and you say, I'm an artist, I write stuff, and I hope that people who read it change something. It's like, oh my God, where's
Right.
she?
Would you say they're
Where's
like
she?
temperamentally like pessimistic people, the Germans?
Yeah, it has. It's connected to our history as well.
You just find that you get a lot of pushback when you say, "Look, I've got aspirations for my writing, and I think I can get people to rethink their behaviors, their habits."